Hey everybody, this is Dust for Dusted on Gaming with a quick start of a quick stream. We're gonna do Esper Control list that I most likely would end up running at GP Pittsburgh this weekend if I were able to go. This is a very similar list that I streamed with a week or so ago, maybe a week and a half ago. The main deck's really not changed all that much. The sideboard, a little bit of adjusting for the control matchup. Basic change to the main deck is I took out one of the hieroglyphic illuminations for a third copy of Glimmer of Genius. The cycling on hieroglyphic illumination can be important, but I think in the longer games I definitely want access to 3 glimmers, 1 hieroglyphic illumination. Other than that, the main deck's the same. 4 cast down might be a little high to a lot of people, but I like having access to all the spot removal. 2 Cellular Wreckage drains the mana base a little bit, but helps clean up in certain matchups. Beyond that, win cons 1 Scarab God, 3 Torrential Gearhulk, 4 Teferi. Could possibly be 4th Gearhulk over the Scarab God, but there have been certain matchups where the Scarab God really shines, even in Game 1. Beyond that, slight changes to the sideboard from the list we played. I cut the 4th Torrential Gearhulk, a couple copies in the gate, and 1 copy of Ardol's Bloodfast for 4 copies of Glint's Leaf Siphoner. It's kind of essential in the early game against blue-white, especially to have a source of card advantage. Obviously, Search for Azcanta and Ardol's Bloodfast are pretty known quantities. Siphoner, this slot goes back and forth between Siphoner and the Black Knight, but Siphoner gives you the card advantage in the longer games, and I don't really see wanting to bring in the Knight in any other matchup other than the control matchups, so Siphoner kind of gets the nod in a situation where you need card advantage more than early beatdown. A couple of vulnerabilities to this list, just straight up, are things like Godpharaoh's Gift that resolves, or History of Benalia. So those are the weaknesses to this particular style of list. You need to be very mindful of those cards, try to play around them as best as possible with this particular list. It's still possible to beat those cards, but I am acknowledging that I'm not running things like Forsake the Worldly or Invoke the Divine. So that's the one weakness of not playing those particular cards. So the Lyras, that comes in the sideboard against red-black, but if we ever play that matchup, I'll get into that. Otherwise, kind of pressed for time today, so I'm going to get rolling here on the stream pretty quickly. So we're going to start the league like I said I would. I don't think, definitely not going to be able to finish it in an hour or so that I have available to stream today. So here goes. We'll get through at least 1 match, maybe 2, if the first match is pretty quick, but Control is not exactly an archetype that's known for fast streams, so we may have to call it after 1 match, but I did want to get this league rolling today. This hand's a little on the slow side, but we'll go ahead and keep, especially with our opponent going down on cards. Hopefully we don't get run over too quickly here. Yep. Looks like Godpharaoh's Gift has its own series of issues. We have no black mana right now. Maybe this hand was a little hasty in the keep, but GFG is one of the matchups that okay, our opponent's attacking with Minister of Inquiries, sure. Alright, chart a course. Like to start drawing some lands here. Play another chart a course. So our opponent charted a course twice and still missed on land drops. That's kind of rough. Not too much our opponent can resolve on 3 that I care about, so I'm just going to go ahead and main phase kill that. Alright, so they finally hit their 3rd land drop. Probably champion. Yep. Angel Inventions and God Pharaoh's Gift. Could have Refurbish in hand by this point. So, just gonna go ahead and strategic planning, sure. What's up, Jankovic? How are you? Master resolves. We have that awkward spot where we can't really resolve Teferi next turn, even if we hit a land drop here. Pass turn. Just can't afford to tap out for Teferi when our opponent can try to go for a Refurbish or something. Like I said, straight off the bat, this is one of the weaknesses. Fell asleep. Yeah, I can imagine. Not too much our opponent can resolve here, so I'm just going to go ahead and clear this nuisance out. Alright, now we have Torrential Gearhulk plus Disallow, so any plays our opponent might have here. Yep, cycle a cast out, sure. Angel Inventions. With 4 cards in hand, I think I allow this to resolve. As much as this sucks, I don't want... The 2/1/1s are kind of irrelevant here, but my opponent resolving a Refurbish is far worse for us. Plunk it in here with Gearhulk. Pass turn. Fumigate. No. Feels like a terrible waste of a Disallow, but sure. To be fair, they could still go like Refurbish and Refurbish in the same turn. That is a thing, so it's not like we're 100% guaranteed here. Let this Eternalize happen. I'm not really sure, honestly. So we're in a bit of a trouble, depending on what our opponent has here. If they have double Refurbish, obviously we're in trouble, but otherwise we close out the game in 2 turns. 2, 3, 4. Obviously, if you have double refurbish, we're in trouble. There's not much I can do about it. Of course, it's exactly what you have. Oh no, just cast out, sure. I'm fine with that occurrence. Only with 2 cards in hand. Plus on Teferi. Do that. Pass here. Champion of Wits is kind of rough, but at the same time, all depends on what you find here. What's up, War Dog? How you doing? Chart of Course, man, that's a lot of looks of cards. Alright, and we got there. Whew. Second Scarab God. Definitely want the copies of Negate here. Duress is a little too iffy. If I remember correctly, the cards I board out are a couple of Fatal Pushes and it's the last takeout. Is it a cast down? I don't think so. Probably just a cast down. Keep the Essence Scatters in, keep the Disallows on the Negates. One of the downsides of going down on Negates is kind of in this matchup where you only have now 6 counter spells for it. But to be fair, they usually board out some amount of their hand's a little dicey, but I think we'll keep. Strategic planning, sure. Their deck has a lot of need to find a counter spell for refurbish though. What kind of hand do they keep? Well, there's a Verasco's. So our opponent has no plays for the first 4 turns. What the heck hand do they keep? There's some consideration for it, but they often board down on GFG. So it's debatable. They go for more of like a creature mid-range plan in the post-board games a lot of the times because they think you're going to overcommit to their sideboard plan. Gearhulk's a nice find. Yeah, there's some consideration for Duress once we see how they've actually like sideboarded in the matchup. Angel of Invention, sure. Would have rather removed that permanently, but you know. Settle the Wreckage gives us a little bit of an advantage in this type of situation, because we can clean up all their crap in one shot. Chart a course, yep. Hopefully... Okay, so no copies of Refurbish here. Sure. So opportunity to clean up your crap. This gives them a mana advantage, but they don't have a GFG to put into play right now. So, I mean, they might have a GFG in hand, but I figured they would have discarded it if they did. So, yep, chart a course. Really need to find a counterspell. I'm just gonna pass here. Okay, just cycling a farmland. Try for counterspell. Nope. So the only thing in their graveyard is Angel of Invention. Course. Negate, you're a little late to the party, friend. Yeah, Esper is my favorite combination in this particular format. This is gonna end poorly. So the reason I'm not going for Gearhulk Settle the Wreckage is there's a decent chance they could have Negate, so I want to have Negate back up whenever we go for Gearhulk Settle here. Surprised they don't leave that cast out in their hand. I don't think there's anything in their graveyard to get back. Nope. Opponent is being very cagey with their stuff here. See if they have Negate or something here. Negate or Jace's defeat. We can't beat more than one copy of the spell, but yep, multiple negates. We're in a lot of trouble here. It's a nice recovery. See if they'll choose to not play around anything now. Get some lands out of their deck. Search for his Kanta is a nice one. I think we're in a lot of trouble here. To be fair, we haven't found any of our searches or Teferis, so. Doesn't matter, I don't even think we've seen a glimmer this turn. Yep. Dovenbon. Fook? Alright, pass. Gear Hulk gives us a little bit of play, but there's a decent chance it won't even resolve, so. Yep. Opponent is in small danger of decking themselves, which is entertaining. Yep, strategic planning. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Dovenbon myself. If this Gear Hulk gets countered, we're probably going to have to scoop it up. Actually, I'm sitting here with Field of Ruins in play. I should have just destroyed this as Kanta turns ago. That's a huge misplay on my part. Opponent's tanking real hard over there. Okay, they let Gear Hulk resolve. Must mean they have Negate in hand? Maybe? Wow, that resolved. I'm kind of in shock. Wow. See if they have another basic in their deck. Why would you search for his Kanta now? Okay. Chase's defeat. You think you would have done that in response to... anything in their graveyard? They have a Minister of Inquiries, and that's about it. I'm just playing defense at this point. I have no reason to attack them. Alright, that's fair. What does his ultimate even do? Alright. negate here. Now you have Jace's defeat. So any blue spell we cast isn't resolving, but this isn't a blue spell, so. Yeah, they're down to 5 cards in library, so that is our win con right now. We're not beating them with damage or Teferi at this point. Opponent's tanking pretty hard over there. They may... I don't know if they run Commit to Memory or not, Janshevik. So far we've only seen negates and jaces. We've seen 2 negates and... Sorry, 3 negates and 2 jaces defeats, and all of their Angel of Inventions are exiled. Not sure. So we take 3 down to 11, or no, 2. Down to 12. Oh, I agree they should have some method to handle that, but they don't seem to. So we need to find something here. I think we're still DOB as it is, well, dead before, wow. They really gonna draw, I was gonna say, are they really gonna draw 2, discard 2 here? I think we might just lose here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Down to 6. Fatal push. 2, 4, 6. They don't run that many. They only run like 14 or 16 creatures. They run like 4 copies of Minister, 4 copies of Champion, 4 copies of Angel of Invention. They only run like between 16 and 18 creatures. I'm surprised they didn't bring in Angel of Sanctions. That honestly would have been like a card I could see them bringing in against us. Is it possible we want some amount of duress? Bring in like maybe 2 duress, go down like a Teferi and a... Maybe. Like, they have other ways of winning the game, but it would certainly hurt their chances. Like, we were able to remove every single copy of Angel of Invention with Vraska's and Contempts and Settle the Wreckages in that game, and that's despite them having both Jace's defeats and... this hand's okay, it's not great. Got themselves a Minister. No. Yeah, I was down for like an hour and a half. Because we have no need to duress them. Ah, fudge. I stand corrected. We had no need to duress them because they weren't going to have a God Pharaoh's gift in the graveyard, but never mind. Yep. I stand corrected. Main Phasing Glimmer to play around. Main Phasing Glimmer to play around their counter spells. Because I didn't think they were going to be able to get a God Pharaoh's gift in the graveyard. Which, to be fair, they only had this activation to get it in the yard. Which means now they get to activate that again. Another Angel Inventions. Yeah, I should have done the play that you said. Alright, so duress you, see what you got. Got another Angel Inventions, a Champion of Wits. We're so far behind right now. This means they're going to get another Angel in the graveyard. See if they even respect the possibility of Settle the Wreckage with this attack. drew a counterspell, we're dead, but we're so far behind anyway. Okay, Vraska's Contempt. Eat that. You have a cast out? Yep, that's gonna be lethal. Nope, go to 1. So we could potentially draw Settle the Wreckage here, but that's just kind of 5. Oh, we don't even have enough lands. Play to free. And concede. So, the decision point that cost us that game was the turn where I had the 3 lands plus the Field of Ruin. What a shit. The safer play would have been to Field of Ruin our opponent, get a swamp, duress them, get the Refurbish out of their hand. That line loses to multiple copies of Refurbish, and them hitting a Godpharaoh's Gift. The line that I took was Glimmer of Genius main phase, play around counter spells, hope to continue to set up our land drops and removal spells, and they just had 1 activation of Minister of Inquiries. So they had 3 in whatever chance to hit their GFG. Unfortunately, the last card, very last card they milled was a Godpharaoh's Gift, so we ended up getting punished. So sometimes when you take plays to, I took the more riskier line that had the better upside in the longer game if they don't have a Godpharaoh's Gift that turn. There's like nothing on 4 mana that scares me other than Refurbish with a Godpharaoh's Gift and scare the graveyard out of their deck. So the fact that, yeah, that was pretty much the game right there. Was that one last decision point? So that's sometimes the razor's edge when you're playing Control. But I'll be right back in 1 minute. Alright, I'm back for a second, but unfortunately dinner is going to be here shortly, but I want to go back to that match. So, the thing with the current format is you've got red, black, mono, red. Let's pull up the MTG Goldfish stuff at the moment. MTG... So... MTG Goldfish, currently, your big decks are red, black, mono, red, Esper, blue, white, blue, black, midrange, black, rain, snake, and black, white, midrange. So, if you're looking at the metagame percentages, now obviously these aren't 100% accurate. Wizards obviously kind of hides the data. So, if I was going to Pittsburgh, I'd be playing the percentages that I wouldn't run into a ton of blue-white gifts, which obviously it's like 3% of the meta, maybe a little bit more. Another deck you'll see is Steel Leaf Stompy, green-white mid-range. So I'm playing the percentages. Most of my sideboard is geared towards this matchup and these two matchups, and a little bit of mono red. I also have a decent sideboard playing against blue-black mid-range. Snake I consider a pretty good matchup as is. Black-white mid-range is a problem simply because of Knight of Grace and History of Benalia. So these two would be my most problematic matchups. So there's the dollar prices. This is what the decks would be costing in paper, roughly, if that's what you're looking for, Jankovic. So, like I said, I geared my sideboard towards the top 4 decks, which currently, according to this, make up 21, 12, so 33, 40, 45. So I roughly geared my deck towards the top 60% of the field, roughly. So, well, it doesn't have that many cards. It doesn't run Teferi, it doesn't run Gear Hulk. So, so yeah, that's how I geared the deck, which, I mean, in a 15-round tournament at something like Pittsburgh, you're going to run into variants. You're going to run into this deck or that deck. So, I've played a couple of games against Blue-White Gift before, and obviously I have tools. I have Scarab God. I have some counterspells. I have the Duress. And as you saw there, if I would have taken the right decision line, as we saw in Game 2, I can actually remove all of their actual threats. Like, we literally almost had them to the point in Game 2 there where they had 4 cards in the library and they almost had no threats left in their deck. Fortunately, that's going to be the last match. But I did want to talk about sideboarding with this particular version of the deck a little bit. So I was talking about the red-black matchup, which is obviously, you know, after the Pro Tour, the quote-unquote big matchup that you have to be careful of. So cards I board out in that matchup are 1 copy of Teferi, 1 copy of Torrential Gear Hulk, board out the Disallows, I board out the Essence Scatters. What are the other cards that I board out here? Now let's search for Azcanta. Essence Scatter. And so 6. 7th card. On the draw, I usually board out a Field of Ruin. So I'm usually boarding out those 7 for a combination of Scarab God, Lyra, and Duresses. So I'm bringing in these 7 right here and boarding out usually these 7. Like on the play, I'll bring the Field of Ruin back in and then board out like a random removal spell. So the reason I do that, and it's worked quite well against red-black in particular, is they tend to go very big. They tend to go Planeswalkers, they tend to go Chandra, Angrath, Karn, vehicles, then they only keep a few removal spells in. So the way control gets punished in the post-board matchups, especially blue-white, is they duress your hand, pick it apart, and then eventually land one of their planeswalkers, and then that kind of snowballs. So the best way to combat that, like a lot of people try to be reactive and like bring in negates, bring in that kind of stuff. And honestly, that doesn't work against a deck bringing in Duresses and Doomfall. So what I end up doing is I bring in the Duresses, bring in a couple Lyras, bring in the Scarab God. So what you end up doing is you end up getting a game where you almost become like the blue-black mid-range of a sort. You're like duressing like their key card out of their hand, like on turn 3 or 4, you duress their like 1 removal spell or 1 planeswalker out of their hand. and then you go ahead and land like a Lyra or a Scarab God, and if you've taken their only answer out of their hand, then either of these cards, both Lyra and Scarab God, can both handle like Chandra and Karn on the board pretty easily and outrace most of what their deck is doing. Scarab God, especially if you've gone like kill spell into counter something, and then you have like a 1 or 2 disallows to kind of protect you a little bit in the late game against top decks. That tends to be the strategy I've employed against red-black, and so far, in like 3 matchups, it's proven pretty effective. So, it's part of the reason why the sideboard's so heavily dedicated towards that. This is the first time I've gone through a league with only 2 negates in my sideboard. So I cut 2 of the negates for Glint Sleeve Siphoners, which might be a mistake in certain matchups, as weak as I am to like GFG and History of Benalia. So it's possible that these Siphoners are too much of a hedge in the control mirror, and maybe I should go back to a 3rd copy of negate over one of these Siphoners. So, like if I knew I was going to the event and I was testing, this is like the configuration. These cards right here are like the configuration that I would be most like. I know it's kind of minute here, but like testing these 6 slots right here. So, no, I ended up. There was a decision point. Where they were on 3 lands. They had the Minister of Inquiries in play. They had no God Pharaoh's Gift in the graveyard. They had tapped out for a Champion of Wits. I countered with a disallow, with the intention of setting up either playing Field of Ruining them, and duressing, and then I drew a Glimmer of Genius. So while they were tapped out and they had no God Pharaoh's Gift in the graveyard, and I wasn't afraid of God Pharaoh's Gift, I went ahead and Glimmered main phase to play around counter magic, and they milled into a God Pharaoh's Gift, had Refurbish in hand, and punished me for the line that I took of not duressing them. So, to be fair, if they would have had a 2nd copy of Refurbish in hand, the duress line wouldn't have won anyway. But I went for the higher upside play and got punished instead of going for the safer play. So, and that was in effect game 3 in a nutshell. That point they landed Angel of Invention, and then we just got too far behind. Didn't see any of our settle the wreckages to kind of clean up the board. So that was pretty much the game, Marine. But unfortunately, I only had time for the 1 match tonight. Dinner's going to be coming up here shortly. Then I have all that, fun evening stuff. So, wanted to get a short stream in tonight. We're going to go ahead and finish the league tomorrow night. But I wanted to show off the deck. Usually, against most builds of Esper or Blue-White, it's actually pretty much a cakewalk for those decks. They've got a billion counter spells. They usually have some amount of, like, Invoke the Divine or that kind of stuff in the deck. Because I'm not running Invoke the Divine, and this particular build I had trimmed down on negates for more Glint Sleeve Siphoners in the control mirror, that particular configuration actually punished me. So it's possible I want to go like 3 negate, 3 Glint Sleeve Siphoner, but, I would have tested like this deck far, far more if I was going to Pittsburgh to know the exact configuration I would want in those style of matchups. But once again, with the Scarab God, counter magic, a lot of like exiling removal, I still think the matchup's pretty decent. I think we're slightly less favored than the traditional Blue-White or Esper would be with a more like traditional configuration with like Forsake the Worldly and that kind of stuff. Or more copies of Scarab God as the one Esper list at the Pro Tour ran. But yeah, that was, I don't know if you want to call it a punt. It was a decision point that cost me the game pretty much. But I'm going to wrap up the stream there tonight. I apologize, it was a short one. I napped longer than I wanted to. I was hoping to get on at like 4:30, be able to get a second match in, but it's about dinner time. Don't want to get rolling on a second match. Want to say hi to everybody. Thanks Jane Shavik, thanks Space Marine, thanks War Dog for everybody hanging out today. Sorry we didn't walk away with a win in this matchup, but we definitely will finish the league tomorrow. It's going to be a learning experience for everybody. I'm hoping to play this at the store championships on Thursday, so I still have some stake in tuning this list. So I'm going to continue playing Esper for the next couple weeks. Not as heavily as we were when I thought was going to Grand Prix Pittsburgh. There's also another event that I get off, if I get off for on July 15th, is like a standard release weekend event of M19. So we're 0-1 so far. We've only played one match, so we're 0-1 so far. So that'll be it for the evening, guys. Thanks everyone for hanging out. This is your first time on the channel, welcome. If you like what you're seeing, please consider hitting that subscribe button. If you like the video, please consider like. If you have any comments, questions about anything in my particular list, or line of play that I took, please feel free to sound off in the comments. Please be constructive. Don't just be like, you suck. I mean, yeah, control takes forever, Jankovic. It's part of the reason why on these shorter streams I don't like streaming Esper Control leagues, because an Esper Control league in either format is going to run you 2.5, 3 hours. So, whereas you can play like a Burn league or a Humans league in like an hour and a half, conceivably. So, thanks everyone for hanging out. It's been great, and I'll be streaming about this time tomorrow night. So, hope to catch you all later.